All right, let's get back to the pitch here, Renee. So obviously, this was a great performance. So the MLS today announced the starting 11 for the match week this past week. Jim was the coach.
Woo!
Julian Carranza, obviously with 2 goals, 2 really good goals as well, and Oliver Semmle.
Woo-hoo!
We have a goalie contract. No, I'm just kidding. Kidding. No, but in all seriousness, though, Oliver, this is now what? The 3rd or 4th start we've had with Semmle. And every single start, I see him improving and getting more. That's the key part. He's getting more comfortable. Obviously, this is a guy who's played some key minutes with Louisville the past couple seasons. Yep. And so now he's in a higher level. And I mean, what pressure than being behind one of the greats of all time in this league? So I genuinely was impressed the way he played on Saturday. He stood tall. Like you mentioned, Portland has a lot of good opportunities, and he looked very comfortable in between the pipes there.
He did. And the notes that I had for him was that he had some good reaction time.
Yes.
He seems like he's got good hands. A couple times he does give up some rebounds, like that early chance that you'd love to see if he can try to like catch that.
Yeah.
But you're also, first of all, I was never a goalie. That was one position I could not play. You have like 0.2 seconds to react.
Literally.
So for him to even get a glove on that and redirect it is great. Now can he, in those times you can't cleanly catch it, at least knock it out of a dangerous spot instead of having it drop back into the mix? Because we did see, I think it was a Sporting Kansas City. No, did he play that game? One of the goals he gave up earlier this season was off of him rebounding it. I'm trying to like think back now. Rebounding it and it falling right to the foot of an attacker. You want to try to make sure you're at least knocking it out.
Yeah.
But his size, his wingspan, his hands, his reaction time, he seems very springy. Very, very nice to see how well he's come into the mix. And like you mentioned, I mean, already he's gotten in this early start of 2024, played in 3 games so far. In those 3 games, he's been able to rack up some good statistics. You know, he's had, no, if I could find the statistics, that'd be helpful. But he's had, I'm in the wrong thing. Here we go. He's had, in his 3 games that he's played so far, he's been able to, 15 shots that he was able to save. He, of course, has unfortunately given up 4 goals, but I feel like a lot of those goals were things where he's been able to learn from them, and it was like some young mistakes, or also just the fact that defense was at times looking like cones. So I'm not putting them all on Oliver that he was able to give up some of those MLS goals, but in MLS play specifically, you know, I think he's been great so far. You know, this is what you expected from him. You needed somebody steady that would come in and be a strong backup keeper.
Yeah.
HC, what's up? I do love
HC?
Yogurt. I'm a big yogurt fan myself too.
HC is a constant during Flyers post game, so we appreciate you.
I see that gritty. I see your Flyers icon.
With Oliver, though, one thing I would say, but besides him just getting more comfortable in play, Renee, I love the fact that we have a young backup because, like, look, I know we all killed Joe Bendick, and rightfully so, but the thing with Oliver is that he's a young kid. And he has room for improvement. Yeah. And look, we're all comfortable with Andre. We all know who Andre is. But, I mean, like, you never know what's going to happen with Andre. I mean, who knows? He has a crazy, crazy end of the season. And he gets sold off the year. Like, these things do happen. So, being able to have, like, that backup right there ready is so important. We had that with Matt Freese for a couple seasons. Everyone knows my love for Matt Freese.
I know. I saw him make a really great save this weekend. I thought of you. I was like, oh,
love
JP.
Matt Freese. Matt Freese is the man. But having now another young incumbent, that's so important to have. And that's the Union way. I mean, having those young kids in the future.
You need that because now he has a chance. He doesn't have to be the everyday starter.
Exactly.
But you now get a chance to learn from Andre Blake. You do get that mixture of getting some meaningful minutes. Of course, because of Andre's injury, he had to play more than anybody expected so far. But it makes for days like Saturday that he's ready. Like, I don't know if he's that ready. Granted, it's only been a few games.
Right.
If he didn't have a chance to, you know, from the start, have to be thrown into the fire. So I don't mind the mistakes he's made because it's allowing him to get that out, get the jitters out, get feeling good. And now if you do need him, you at least know you can rely on him versus him being, you know, buried on the bench. And here we are 30 games into the season. It's like, is Semmle ready or not? So I think it's great to start to like prepare that next generation of talent. And Andre's not going to be able to play forever. At some point, the Union are going to have to move on to another goalie.
I know. But what really helps, though, and why Semmle had a solid game was just defensively. They were sound.
Yeah.
Especially that back line. I know we on the show, we've been a little critical of Glesnes, rightfully so. On that 3rd goal, he was so huge with that reset pass that really, first off, we'll talk about Ua in a second, but great run by Ua, as he usually does. and he was able to set that cross in for Carranza, but that was all set up by Jakob Glesnes. But it wasn't even just that. Mbaizo was solid. How about Mbaizo?
I know.
That 1-2 with Rodriguez and Mosquera. Mosquera took that shot off Semmle. And Mbaizo had that slight touch to get that ball out of the way.
Just the little things.
That was the best defensive game I've seen from him in a long time.
I know.
It was impressive.
And now it makes me wonder, like, where do you go from here? Obviously, I don't think Jim is the type where he's going to take all of these great performances and just completely throw out the window, what he's been, the usual lineup. Because now you're going to get back, obviously, Andre, but Nate, Jack, Jose, how do you merge and mix what you've seen Saturday with what you're getting back and make sure that they're still playing at that high level that we talk about? And when I look at this group, I would love for Jim to take some of the formation, some of these players, and at the very least, get them involved in the game earlier. If Marcus Anderson's not going to be a starter because you're going to get back a Daniel Gazdag, you're going to get back, Jack McGlynn, he at least needs to be inserted into the game quicker. And Mbaizo really made it tough. I mean, he showed he truly is that outside back that you can depend on. And so I wonder how much now after that game Saturday, of course, it's just one game, but that's the most aggression, movement, firepower we've seen from the Union all MLS so far.
Yeah.
So you've got to take some of these learnings, and these guys earned more minutes. So
sure.
I hope that we see Jeremy Raffanello more. I would like to see Ty Baribo, by the way. But I'd love to see Jeremy Raffanello more. I'd love to see Marcus Anderson sooner. Chris Donovan even, getting him involved, and someone like Daniel Gazdag, someone like Mikel Ua, make it more, maybe you'll get more from them if they're playing a little bit less, to be honest.
I like that.
Because I did talk to a friend of mine that works in the communications department with the Union, and she was saying how much, they've just been traveling. And this is not like a report or anything. This is a no-brainer. But she was like, breaking news. But I was at an event with her this weekend, and we were talking about the team. And she's like, it's just crazy. Like, the offseason was so short. These guys have traveled so much.
No,
they go for Portland. They go, they go down early. So they have a day to try to, get caught up to the time zone. But then they have to do it all over again. And every away game's been a different time zone. And it's been a long flight. And she's like, these guys have had to travel so much so soon. Plus, of course, they had CONCACAF games before they got knocked out. And we don't take into consideration just the fatigue and the wear and tear. So the Damian Lowe's and guys that you want to critique, okay, they still have to go travel again. Yep. Now they're still traveling on international break with their respective teams. That's a lot of mileage on the tank. And now when you're expecting 90-minute performances from them and all that, it just adds up. So getting some fresh guys in sooner hopefully is a great way to kind of mitigate this early large amount of games that they played. Yeah, absolutely. As Jillian is chiming in, certainly makes you feel better about the times Andre is going to be away. Well-deserved recognition for all of it. Absolutely. And then you mentioned it. Obviously we just had Jamaica. Was it Gold Cup that we had down there? Mm-hmm. So obviously you're going to miss him there. We'll miss some time here this upcoming summer as well. So Semmle's going to get some play. He's going to get some heavy play here, and it's going to be some extremely valuable starts. But I mean, that was one of the concerns heading into the season is depth. And I'm not going to sit here and say it's answered, but you have some more options now, and more options that we're going to be able to seize from. Obviously, you mentioned Marcus Anderson. I mean, everyone knows in this podcast is a Marcus Anderson fan club. We are. Literally. I have no problem with saying I am Team Marcus. He's been playing really well. And like I talked about it before, his ability to stretch back lines with his speed and just his hard work in general, something you're definitely gonna need. But Renee, Jeremy Raffanello on Saturday, also a fan, really made his name seen and heard. The Quinn Sullivan goal, Jeremy took a couple shots from outside, but that Quinn Sullivan goal was set up from a Jerry Raffanello long shot, and Quinn was at the right place at the right time and made a great heads-up play. But, Jim always talks about, I know a lot of times we like to kill Brujo Martinez for taking those long shots, but there's a reason why Jim was fine with it, because it is hard to defend that, you know, and having that ability to shoot those shots long, it's so big. And so you saw that with Raffanello, but, we talked about Gazdag. What happens if Gazag's out? What do you use as a backup? Joaquin Torres is now gone. Raffanello could potentially be one of those guys that could be a substitute as a number 10. You can run this formation too. Obviously, this type of formation worked with this type of 4-3-3, 4-4-2, flat, whatever you guys want to call it. But Raffanello, with this play on Saturday, has to be able to play himself into some more minutes. Now, listen, this is a Jim Curtin-led team.
You cannot just perform in matches. You have to do it as well in practice or in the week.
Sure.
But Rafael definitely played himself into some rotation minutes here.
Yeah. Yeah, and actually, as even you were mentioning the formation, I know, not to circle back to that, but the 4-4-2 is typically one of the easier formations to play. It just simplifies the game.
Yeah.
And I even wonder how much the team kind of needed that. Like the 4-4-2 is that formation that when you're first learning 11v11 and you're just getting started, that's your go-to. Like that's the basic. Because it's very straightforward. Your outside mids get up and down. Your two center mids just work together. Your forwards are twin strikers. It just simplifies the game. And maybe this team needed that.
Yeah.
Maybe they need to kind of go back to the basics. You bring in some hungry, ambitious guys and a Raffanello and Anderson, Mbaizo even, that are, ready to show what they can do. You simplify the game and just go out and you just play versus 4-3-3 and even the 4-4-2 with a diamond midfield just requires more sophistication, more movement, more of a dynamic type of play. But I would love to see, it doesn't have to be this equal playing time. That's never my thing at all. But I would just love to see these guys get in a little bit sooner. As much as a Daniel Gazdag and Mikel Ua, I know we've talked about them so many times and how much they're, we're depending on them offensively, but you don't have to depend on them offensively. Even Julian Carranza, you don't have to. I know we've talked about it time and time again. Who else can contribute? Okay, maybe they're not directly the one finishing, but like you mentioned, Jeremy Raffanello helps create that goal because he takes a chance. He takes a shot from distance. Marcus Anderson looks to get in behind. I think he was the one fouled. Who was fouled when Jacob Glesnes played that ball into the third goal? It was Quinn. Quinn Sullivan. He takes that chance. He gets brought. That's right, because he was laying on the ground while they were scoring. But you take that chance, you get fouled, it leads to a goal. Like, these are the types of ways you make an impact, not just running around.
Yeah.
You need guys that are making plays that directly lead to corner kicks that lead to goals or set pieces or run a play types of goals. And even with all 3 goals coming off of a rebound and 2 set pieces, what led to those was very encouraging.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought up the 4-4-2 flat because, I remember back in 2019 going to Serie A over here, Carlo Ancelotti takes over Napoli and they come from Saudi ball with heavy possession 4-3-3. He wanted a little more defense implements that Napoli team, so he kind of brought in a 4-4-2. You had Insigne and Milik play as 2 forwards there.
Right.
And that's definitely one way you can, it's just more, like you said, it's more simplified. But to the point where getting more minutes at Rafael and Marcus Anderson, it's all about trust, in my opinion. And that's something I feel like Jim's kind of, I don't know Jim's mind exactly, but just seeing it from afar, there have been times I was bringing up the Anthony Fontana situation, although I wasn't there, but we saw Anthony produce and we saw Anthony contribute in the attack and wasn't getting those consistent minutes. But you got to be able to trust your guys too at some point. Will there be a match where you may not feel too comfortable putting Marcus Anderson and Jeremy Raffaello? Maybe, but those kids are wild cards, and sometimes those wild cards can get you that win. And so I think these kids, the more, and like we talked about with Semmle, the more you put them in there, the more they're going to get more comfortable. I mean, Raffaello looked like a seasoned vet out there.
I liked his play. I liked it.
This dude was his first start or second start in MLS play. He looked very, very comfortable in that role right there. So it is definitely really cool to see these players step up.
It gives you options. I know we have talked so much about depth and wanting to see more. And my thing, I always say on every show of any team is when you aren't getting the production you need, why not try somebody else? Someone like Ua, for an example, if he's not scoring goals, okay, he did at least get that beautiful assist. If he's not scoring goals, you don't have to play him 90 minutes. You can play him 75 and give somebody else 15 minutes and at least give them a chance. At least try it. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. There's always a way in between. Try these other guys out, especially in this part of the season. This is the time. A, you're keeping your 90-minute players fresh. B, you're keeping the competition alive. If they know they have to compete for their spot day in and day out, that much more versus it just being a guarantee they're going to be locked for 90 minutes, watch how guys start to play a little bit harder. And then you're keeping the reserves motivated, that next player up mentality. You never know when your name's going to get called on. Now you're going to be ready if you're Jeremy Raffanello, if you're Olivier Mbaizo, if you're Marcus Anderson, Chris Donovan, that whenever needed, you can step on the pitch and help. And you cannot just go 11, 12 guys all season.